Topic 3. Oh, I thought you were saying giving me the hold on.
No, I was giving you 3. I was helping you out. I was giving you visual aid for somebody watching at home.
This one comes from the Kind of Funny forums. Our boy Deuce. Deuce says, hey guys, this question is about promoting video games. You guys do a great job and are able to reach a wide audience of gamers. Lately, I've noticed that Greg has been talking about how excited he is for The Division after finally giving the beta a shot. He's also mentioned in a few episodes how he'll be playing it online. Having played the beta and heard many online commentators talk about how content weak it is currently, and I agree with them. Now, I understand that everybody's tastes are unique and to each their own. I also understand that Kind of Funny is a business and money needs to be made, so no hate from me. I also noticed him subtly positioning the Coke bottle so the label faces the camera. He said he has an LOL after that. Was just wondering. Question, is Greg getting paid to promote The Division by saying he'll be playing it online repeatedly or otherwise? It's all perfectly legal after all. I thought this was a cool jumping off point, especially given that we did one of our first video game sponsorships in a long time.
Sure,
with
the Layers of Fear thing. Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to talk about like our thoughts on the whole thing and just get everyone out there on the same page. To know.
We haven't talked about it in a long time. We talked about how we were going to handle ethics and sponsorships and stuff when we started Kind of Funny, but we didn't do it. As we've said from the get-go, if we're doing sponsorships right, you'll never know. Yes, I'm being paid by The Division and placed. No. The whole point is we'll be upfront about everything we do. And so, no, I'm not being paid to talk about The Division at all. To his point, he's got it a little bit wrong. I played The Division beta for like 40 minutes. Got in, it was exactly what I wanted, and I got out. You know what I mean? My excitement around The Division, first off, is that it's third-person action, which is my jam. XP popping off when I kill people, and the promise that I know Kevin's going to play. Maybe I get to play a little bit with Colin. Fredo's going to be playing. I bet I can get Nick on board. Me and Mitch were talking last night about having a standing like Monday date. Like it's going to be, and Scott Lowe's going to be playing it. It's like I'm going to be playing. It's the first game that I've seen from the outside coming multiplayer that I'm like, I like the gameplay. It's not space like Destiny, which is a turnoff for me, and I know that's dumb, but it's not space like Destiny, and it's like my friends are going to be playing it. So it's like I'm already invested in the fact that it looks like I'll be able to play through and gear up and get better and get XP, and then it's going to be that Scott pops on and I can go help his mission. Or, Christine and I keep talking about playing together, right? That chances are, since I'll knock on wood, we'll have it before she will. We'll be early. That I'll be, advanced to be able to come back and help out on her missions to go through, or maybe roll a different character or whatever. Not paid. Haven't played that much, so he's talking about it being content light. I don't know anything about that. I don't know that. That's not a complaint I'm hearing from my friends who have, Scott played dozens of hours, right? And it's like, I don't know. He's never said it felt content light. He said it felt great and he loved it and he can't wait for the real thing. So it's like, that's all I need to know from my trusted peers, right? So yeah, not paid for The Division to clear it all up. But in terms of sponsorships, the idea has been, when they do come up, that we tell our audience about them. We never hide from that. We're not ashamed of it. You know what I mean? And the fact that we'll never do something or a sponsorship that does jeopardize our relationship with you. We'll never do something that you're gonna look at and be like, that's fishy, that's weird, why did they do that? A great example for us I always talk about is The Order, right? We did that Order sponsorship or integration or whatever you want to call it, where Colin and I did like a rewind theater kind of thing on the website for The Order and talked about the hidden things and brought you up to speed if you didn't know any of the history about The Order. Then 3 days later we put up our review discussion and we were like, this game's not that great. Yeah. And that was the point, is that we were being sponsored around content that wasn't a review, that wasn't an opinion. It wasn't like we were the review, us going through and looking at the actual Order website wasn't us saying this game's good or bad, buy or don't buy, good or bad, 7.9 or 0. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing even with the Layers of Fear thing we just did, right? That was us doing a Let's Play of Layers of Fear, but it's really more about us getting fucked with in a haunted house and fucking with each other and being stupid. Yeah. And talking to the spirit guide.
I mean, and even then, it's like there was never a point where they were like, say these things about this game or whatever. And we could have totally hated it. We could have been making fun of it as we were playing. And that's the way that cookie crumbles. And we go in being us, and they paid for that opportunity.
That's what they wanted. And the thing about it, we keep saying they, and that the developers issued us a challenge, is what we say in the video, right? Even though the description says we're sponsored or whatever. The interesting thing about it is we never had direct content with the developers at Layers of Fear, right?
Contact, yeah.
I'm sorry, what I said, content.
Yeah,
contact with the developers behind it, right? It was through Layer Media, which is our friends and stuff who are also in the video production business, who got this opportunity and then hired us to come be the guys because they like our content, right? So it's that weird thing of like, no, everybody's been awesome about it. And when we talk about it, you know what I mean? Like, we've taken your feedback in terms of like, well, you say in the video that they issued you a challenge, but you don't say specifically it's sponsored. And it's like, sure, we put in the description, Colin's been great on every show we do saying, hey, this is what we think of Layers of Fear, but take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
It's all very interesting to think about. And like I come from a totally different world than you guys do because you guys were the journalist side of IGN, whereas I was the business production side of IGN. And it's like I don't think that any of us disagree on this because there is ethics, there is a clear right and wrong with a lot of stuff, and then there's stuff that's not so clear. But to me, the clear thing is you can't buy opinions. That is when shit gets bad.
We're never gonna do something or say something where it's like, all right, we want to hire you to play this game, but you're not allowed to say if you like it or don't like it.
Yeah,
that's the big thing. If you and we talked about before with this Final Fantasy event, where I was like, sure, we'll do it. Colin talks shit about Final Fantasy every chance he gets. I respect it, but I don't play it, so I can't say anything. And Tim's gonna be the fan, and that was the thing with like, I can't tell you much about the event, but even when we're talking about like. I'm not gonna. I told them straight up. If I play it and don't like it, I'm not gonna be like, "Wow, that's just great. What a fight!" You know what I mean? Like, no.
Yeah, no, and it gets really kind of complicated because people start feeling really entitled to, just being known when there's a commercial in front of them, and it's like. What's really interesting is there's so many rules that people don't know about, and there's so many rules that no one even knows because they keep adapting and keep changing. Like with the FTC doing all of its stuff in terms of advertisement. The rules on the internet, there is rules. They are constantly being redefined.
Sure, of course.
And what one group tells you is totally wrong than what another group tells you. And each establishment kind of just needs to come up with its rules and be transparent. I think that's what we have going for us is we're so transparent with the audience. Like we tell you guys, like you're never going to not know if something's sponsored. Like, and if it's ever not clear, if someone asks, you'll get the answer immediately.
If it's ever not clear that it's sponsored, we failed. Yeah, that's the point. You know what I mean? And like, so that whether it's something in the description, whether it is audio in the video, which I think we're adding to video 2, right, or whatever, to make sure that it's crystal clear for everyone there. Like, we live and die by authenticity. That's the whole reason Kind of Funny works, is because you out there care enough about our opinions. You're not coming here for a sexy face, no offense to him. You're not coming here for exclusive gameplay usually. You're not, you know what I mean? Like the bread and butter of us is us talking to you about video games and you going, I respect their opinions.
Yeah.
So the moment I'm like, let me tell you why I love The Division, BTW, this is brought to you by well, fuck me. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense then.
Yeah, and that's the other thing there is it's like, these opportunities, we look at them as like a chance to do something cool that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Sure.
Like we would have never done a Let's Play. Like, would we have played Layers of Fear? Not for sure. Maybe. Yeah. Horror games are great Let's Plays.
But it would have been on green screen and it would have been
just a normal Let's Play.
That was my favorite. Like all the comments are like, these production values. And it's like, there you go. Like you see it already, right? The fact that like when we can be part of something that isn't opinion based and it's going to be a sponsorship, we can give you something different, right? Because Layer Media, which isn't related to Layers of Fear, but confusing to someone just getting on, has amazing cameras and a drone and all these other things that we don't have. We have Kevin.
Yeah. He's good though.
He's great. I love him. But like, if I was to say, Kevin, give me a drone boom shot on that right now, he'd pick it up and slam it into the wall and then drop it on the ground, and then he'd trip over the cord. Yeah,
it's a case by case thing, and I think something that I want to make clear to the people out there is I do a lot of the businessy like sponsorship deal stuff,
right?
And we never do something without having a discussion about it. Especially if whenever it starts to get to the point of like an ethics question of like, where do we draw the line? I'll talk to you guys. I'll bring you sometimes separately just to get your different opinions and be like, is this all right? Like, what do you feel about this? What's the messaging need to be on this? Do we need to say brought to you by? Do we need to clearly define it and like all this stuff? And we'll go back and we'll tell them. And if they're like, nah, then we'll be like, all right, we're not doing that then. It's like they play by our rules once it comes to a certain point. Or we just say no.
Yeah.
And it's like we can pass because we're in that position where we're not begging for money to these people. You know what I mean? It's like they're coming to us and we're being like, oh, does this make sense for us? Can we do this? And also the other question is, can we make it make sense if it doesn't make sense? And I think that's the thing is like, you can't buy our opinion, but it's like, is there anything you like about this game? It's like, I don't know. Let us see. Let us find out. And then we can go from there. And like, with I think the Order is a perfect example. It's like, you doesn't really love that game, but it's like, you guys did a video that's just doing talking about the history of it and like all the finding the secrets and stuff. That stuff is interesting. That stuff is cool. And it is doing a service to somebody. Someone's interested in that content. And that it's not like that stuff is being affected by getting paid. You know what I mean? Or getting money for the content. And I think that is really kind of the bottom line. And also it's like, is it cool? Is it fun stuff? Is it something that we want to promote? Because
a product we're proud of.
Yeah. It's like, if this was, I can't really think of an example off the top of my head, but like the horror, like us going to Haunted Mansion and ghost hunting, I was sold instantly. Like that's awesome. But if it was something that we didn't want to do because we didn't think it would make great content, even if it's funny, we wouldn't necessarily do it. You know what I mean? Like we would have to have that conversation of, does this fit our brand? Like I personally think this is one of the kind of funniest videos we've ever done.
Sure.
You know, like this is what I want to be doing, is us being dumb shits, playing games and having fun and whatever. There wasn't a single moment that we were doing that I was actually thinking about like, is this a good game?
Oh, sure.
While we're playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was more like we're making content, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think, Colin?
About the video itself, I agree. I think it's a great video. But it came out better than I thought it was, and I think it's obvious that it's sponsored. That said, like even without any of the text, like it's obvious that this isn't something we did by ourselves, just based on everything we've ever done. But that said, we can't make assumptions like that, and it's not right to make assumptions like that, which is why I always try to be clear. When the order came out, we did the same thing, and with this game, we're doing the same thing. Where I was actually, unlike the order, which I knew I probably wasn't gonna like very much. I was pleasantly surprised by this game. So but I do want people to know that, like, well, we did get money for this video about this game, so I really do authentically like the game. But if you don't want to believe me, I understand that, and you should know that this certain set of circumstances exists. So,
and I don't, and I'm allowed to say that.
Right? No, exactly.
They're going to take all the money back.
No.
But that's all of that said. I do understand the heightened skepticism around what's going on the internet with
100%.
advertising and stuff like that. And so I think people have every right to be skeptical. People have every right to ask their questions. We have to be better, not just us, but I think everyone, in terms of like highlighting when things are sponsored, because there is a lot of shady shit going on out there. I proudly say that I've never been a part of it, but you don't know that, and like so I get that, I understand that, but I think most people trust us and most people get what we're all about, and
our audience gets it. Yeah,
we wouldn't do something that that would compromise our ethical standing with you guys, and I would I think you guys know me well enough to know that I wouldn't do something that I thought compromised my right and ability to say whatever the fuck it is I want to say. So we wouldn't put ourselves in those kinds of positions. But again, I get it. I mean, you see shady shit going on all the time, especially on YouTube. So
and speaking of that, like kind of the seed of all of this was that there was a comment that was like, hey guys, like you should make it a little more clear that it's sponsored because Machinima got in trouble or whatever. So there's an article, I want to read a bit about it, and then we can discuss it a bit. This is from Wired. It says, Machinima has settled, this is from last year. Machinima has settled with the Federal Trade Commission after an investigation into undisclosed paid endorsements, the FTC said today. Earlier this year, the FTC issued a complaint against Machinima, saying that it had failed to disclose financial incentives regarding video content uploaded by its members' channels in violation of the Federal Trade Commission Act. Microsoft, through an outside agency, paid Machinima to produce positive videos about the Xbox One gaming machine, and many of the YouTube stars who accepted the deal failed to properly disclose that they were producing paid, sponsored content, not independent analysis. The incident in question happened in late 2013 following the launch of the Xbox One. According to the FTC's complaint, a number of YouTube channels, they name a couple, were commissioned by Machinima to produce videos featuring the Xbox One launch title, Rise Son of Rome, in a way that showcased Microsoft in a positive light. The failures to disclose here appear to be isolated incidents that occurred in spite of and not in the absence of policies and procedures designed to prevent such lapses, the FTC says. And it all ended with just like a slap on the wrist. There was no fines, there was no anything. It was just like, hey, you can't do this. What's wrong about all that?
Well, I mean, the fact that these individual people aren't doing it. I think the fact that like the intent is hidden.
Okay.
The intent there was, I'm going to make a video showing you Rise Son of Rome is good.
Okay.
Like, right, when we make videos about games, like, you just did one with Nick about Far Cry. The intent there is to put out us playing this game and hopefully it's funny. It's not to say, I'm going to show Far Cry in its best light. I'm going to take Far Cry out at its knees, right? I'm going to see what this game is.
Yeah, and just not to interrupt you, but the game crashed.
Far Cry
during the Far Cry crashed during our Let's Play, and that's in the Let's Play. I mean, like, we're going to talk about that in the Let's Play. We'll probably cut out me rebooting because it's boring, but we talk about it crashing. It's not like we were like, well,
oh sure,
let's hide the fact
we're jumping ahead now to show you something a little bit different.
We got the game early too, so it's not like the thing that's important is that I don't find it common at all, and I don't even know if I can think of a time when like you get access to a game early, at least when we've been doing editorial, when we were doing this kind of stuff, and everyone's like, well, you gotta be positive. Like nothing. I just cannot recall a situation like being.
I'm trying to think. What was the game? There was a game with reviews where there was a hullabaloo that if you're going to score the game above whatever, you could publish it. But if you went below, then you had to hold to this embargo.
Yeah,
that's the one thing, and I can't even name the exact game of what I'm talking about. And people, they got eaten alive for it. Whoever it was.
Yeah, so it's just I think that people have to understand that there's this idea that there's like some collusion going on, and maybe there is. I don't know anything about that. I don't think there is really. with Publisher X and YouTube channel Y or whatever. I just don't think that's happening because publishers are not stupid and they know what's going on, and they know that like they're just going to turn the people off that play their games from ever playing their games if they put these like restrictions on that are maybe not even legal and at the very least unsavory. So people have to look at it in a more bird's eye view that like there's a symbiotic relationship between the publishers and the developers and the press and the media and all that kind of stuff for sure, because they make the games, we play the games, and that's good for them. If we like the game, it may be bad for them if they don't like the game, but it's like, it's kind of a natural marketplace. You know, like I don't really see it as like something that's really being, the invisible hand like kind of works there. Like good games rise to the top, bad games don't really get sent out because they know we're going to fucking destroy them. So like and sometimes good games we don't like and sometimes bad games we do. So it all works out. But I just think that like there's on one hand, like I said earlier, that it's understandable with what has gone on over years past, going way back to Kane and Lynch and all that kind of stuff at GameSpot, which was almost 10 years ago now. But then going all the way forward to today with, you know, stuff like what happened with Machinima and the FTC getting involved and people just kind of being skeptical of things. I understand that. But at the same time, it's very conspiratorial. It's like way over the top in terms of like the conspiracy theories people really think are happening when people think, you know, when we were at IGN, people were buying review scores. That never happened.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
that literally never happened. So like, I want to say that as well. Like I understand your fears, but I'm also telling you as someone who's been in this industry a lot longer than many people in the industry, you know, that like this kind of conspiracy laden shit, at least at the top level that we were at the sites we were at and the things we worked at, just didn't happen like that. You know, so people have to like just kind of look at it through a lens of less skepticism, but always remain healthily skeptical.
Exactly. There's a difference there between a healthy skepticism and over the top.
Definitely. So breaking down this thing for me, I think there's a couple interesting things to look at. Is Microsoft buying this wrong? You know, then you go down to that and it's like, all right, okay, then there's the machinima layer of they are technically the managers of, and they're the ones that are issuing these contracts to these content creators. Are they wrong for issuing the contracts and not making it clear that they need to make this stuff? Like that's what they need to do. You need to say it's brought to you by, you need to say this or that. Then it gets to the content creators. And it's like, we're in an interesting world now where it's like, you're right, it is ethically wrong and like IGN and GameSpot, whatever, they can do this. But what if these people aren't critics? You know, what if these people are making content? They're just making entertaining content. Is it wrong to pay someone to make entertaining content that is favorably talking about someone else's product? And that's where the FTC gets involved because there are rules around that, right? And that's
because it's an advertisement.
Yes.
That's the difference. When you're passing it off as a product that isn't an ad, that's the problem.
Yes. And so it really comes down to this thing of you are actually making an advertisement, which is different than making than reviewing something and how that affects the review and stuff, right? So it gets complicated. And what's interesting is that it's Machinima that I think is the issue there, because Machinima is the thing that and again, now they're better now, like they got the slap on the wrist and whatever.
Right. This is years ago.
But Machinima is the one at fault there.
They're the buffer. They're supposed to push back on Microsoft,
and
right?
They're supposed to push back,
or
and they're also supposed to make it clear to the content creators that you're allowed to do what you're doing. Legally, you're allowed to, but in order for it to be legal, you need to have the fine print somewhere.
Yeah.
You see this on commercials. There's the fine print that'll say whatever is necessary for it to be said.
Sure.
And we do that. We live by that. Like there is documents and legal things on every contract that we sign that's like we are legally required to put X, Y, or Z in the description or in the video or here or there or whatever in order to be fine. And it's like that. It's not on us. You know, like that's on whoever we're signing that contract with. It's on us to be cool with our audience and to make sure our audience knows what's up. A perfect example is for this Layers of Fear thing we're talking about, putting the intro tag on the beginning, just say this is sponsored by, brought to you by, whatever, Layers of Fear. We don't need to do that. Like legally, we don't need to do that. And actually, that's the type of shit that we should charge Layers of Fear more for that, because like that's giving them more bang for the buck. Every time you mention that we're sponsored by them on the other podcast, and technically we should be getting more money. Like we not should be, could be,
yeah.
And it's like, but we don't care because to us, it's not about that money when it comes to there.
Right. We want to do right by them.
We want to do right by the audience.
And the audience was on episode 1. Like maybe it should have been. And they're like, all right, sure, why not?
Good point.
Okay, cool.
We'll think about that in the future, and it definitely do it case by case.
BTW, Kevin, remind me to record that after this.
Oh yeah,
we were supposed to do that before this, but no big deal.
But I just think it's funny to look at it all because I mean Microsoft, you know, shady or not, whatever, they're making commercials. Like that's all they're doing. So it's like personally from a business perspective, them asking people to make advertisements that are favoring their thing, there's nothing ethically wrong about that at all. That's the point. They're literally paying content creators to make commercials for them.
Make content.
Yeah. paying off reviews and paying off stuff, yes, that is shady. That is weird. That is whatever. That's not what this is. That's a totally different thing. And like you're talking about that with IGN and stuff, and like that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
because that is wrong.
I think there's also a level of self-policing that's required. I agree with you. Like Microsoft, I'm not sure in that particular story, not knowing like everything about it, didn't probably do anything wrong. They're trying to manipulate the market. And that's what businesses kind of do.
And that's what commercials are.
Yeah, that's
you're not going to watch
idea.
a commercial that's like, it's all right.
Machinima, I think, should have pushed back. That's what I always really respected about, a lot of our experiences with salespeople in the past, where they really do try to protect, and many times the editorial consistency of a product to be like, well, what you want is not acceptable, so we're just not going to do it. We'll leave the money on the table. We don't want it. And that was really up to Machinima to do that. And there was another layer where you either care about your ethical standards or not, if you're a YouTuber or doing whatever you do, a content creator. So there is an onus on the people at the very bottom as well to say no to those things. We would have said no to that as well. I mean, it reminds me of if I don't have editorial freedom to say and do what I want in anything we do, I'm not doing it. And I think we're all very similar minded with that. It reminds me, I think more recently there was a Star Trek MMO or something that came out, and this third party
Kotaku or Polygon wrote about it?
Yeah, this third party PR agency wanted people to like write about or do videos about it, and like you have to say this and use this, and maybe we suggest that you say that it's fun for the fan, or like whatever it is. And I'm like, if someone said to me, I can even shove that directly in your asshole, because I'm not doing that, and like I don't think we would even get pitches like that, because
no, they want to give it to them.
But like the fact that PR,
they know we don't like Star Trek.
But again, like I don't know that PR was necessarily wrong to do that, because they're trying again to manipulate something for the benefit of their products. That's how they make their money. It is up to the other side to say like, no, like we don't do that, and to set a standard. And I think that, talking about the onus of the people on the bottom, like, I developed a very close relationship with Insomniac Games. I know a lot of people there, and I'm like actually close personal friends with Marcus Smith and with Drew Murray, who are the guy, like the co-creative directors of Resistance and Sunset Overdrive.
Kevin and I are real tight with Ted Price. Rode an elevator with him.
Yeah, and I'm on a first name basis with many people over there. I've been to the studio many times, and I a long time ago, no one even asked me to. I'm like, I want everyone to know. Like, I'm not like I think I can 100% be honest about the game. And actually, when we gave Resistance, I remember we gave Resistance 3 a 9. They asked us like, what would you give Resistance 3? I'm like a 9. Not knowing the score, and they're like, well, that's what we're giving it. I'm like, so there you go. But I knew that like optically you cross a line where it's like, I know in my heart that I can look at this objectively, but I understand why you think that I couldn't. And so like at some point you have to just be like, that's not even a hill worth dying on at all. Even though I know what's in my heart, I'll just remove myself from the equation completely. So I didn't deal with Insomniac at all until Sunset Overdrive preview cycle. In which I had, some things I liked about it and some things I didn't like about it, but it was a preview, it was not a review. I would have never put myself in a critical position to do that when I was a critic. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is like people have to be smart enough on themselves as individuals to know when they should remove themselves, not because they're necessarily doing anything wrong, because I don't think I was doing anything wrong at all by developing my friendships, but by the knowledge that if I were looking at someone with a relationship like that, talking about something like that, I might be like, there's something, I know he's honest, but you should probably recuse yourself anyway. And it's like when a Supreme Court justice recuses him or herself because they have a vested interest in this thing, like they could probably look at things objectively. That's what they do. They're judges, but there's still the question on if it was ever happening. So I think that there's another layer below that.
Well, I think that's them making their judgment on the whole situation. Like what's the best, foot forward. And I think that we do that all the time. And I think that's why we are where we're at, is because we're open with everybody and they're open with us. And like we have that conversation, and it's like, all right, cool. Well, every single thing we think about going forward. There's not a single thing that happens when shit goes on where we're not like, how do we feel about this? What should we do next time? And then it just is part of next time's whole planning process, execution process, everything. Yeah.
My closing thoughts, I guess, on this are, I agree that if we're doing something that's sponsored, you'll probably know it in the first millisecond. You know what I mean? Because I'm super uncomfortable not making that clear, which is why when I talk about Layers of Fear, when we talked about the order back in the day, I always tried to make that clear. And it wasn't so difficult with the order because I fucking didn't like the game at all. I thought it was bad. But so that would have been an ironic payoff, wouldn't have. But with Layers of Fear, we had to be a little more clear because I was actually quite pleasantly surprised by the game. So people are going to know, but we would never put ourselves in precarious or unsavory positions like that. I just know we wouldn't. So you guys either trust us with that or you don't, but we should always be open and honest about those things as well.
Amen.
To be clear, Microsoft paid you not to like the order, right?
Yes, okay. To be clear. And also Resistance 3, available on PlayStation 3. By the way, it's your fault that we didn't get another one.
I like how Kevin threw that up on the wall. He's like, straight enough.